There is going to be a big distress that is going to come into Asia. A big disease, distress of disease is coming. The Lord took me into a hospital. There's a very big distress there. You see a lot of people swarming into the hospital. I see the lack of equipment now. There is no equipment. The doctors are running up and down, and many people flooding into the hospital. And I see a lot of people rushing into the hospital, being rushed. There's the procedure being done on somebody, and then there is testing. So somebody told me, well, he makes one of the doctors there to speak with me, and he says, "We don't have equipment. What we do, we take this, and we take a little and put in the culture to see." So there is going to be a big distress that is going to come into Asia. A big disease, distress of disease is coming, a disease emergency in Asia.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Officials in China are dealing with a major health crisis at the worst possible time of year. With at least 7 major cities under a travel ban, officials have suspended public transport, outgoing flights have been cancelled and train services shut down, leaving more than 20 million people going nowhere.
Now, alarming numbers out of China overnight. Its death toll from the novel coronavirus hit 636 as of this morning. And more than 40 new confirmed cases were reported from the virus-hit cruise ship docked in the Japanese port of Yokohama. Our Park Hee-jun has the latest.
The death toll in China from the novel coronavirus is now at 636, with the total number of confirmed cases standing at more than 31,000. China's National Health Commission revealed the latest figures early Friday, with 73 deaths and more than 3,000 additional cases occurring in a single day. But around 1,500 patients were discharged from hospital. In Hubei province alone, there have been 618 deaths and over 22,000 confirmed cases. That's an increase of 69 deaths and 2,400 cases in one day. In other parts of the world, the virus has killed just 2 people outside the Chinese mainland, one in Hong Kong and one in the Philippines. Japan has reported the highest number of confirmed cases, followed by Singapore, Thailand, and South Korea. More cases are also coming in from the cruise ship docked in the Japanese port of Yokohama, put under mandatory quarantine after 10 passengers were confirmed to have the virus. 41 more passengers on board tested positive, 21 of them Japanese. That brings the total on the ship to 61. There are 3,700 passengers and crew members stuck on board, and the number of cases there is expected to rise as virus tests continue.
China is on a war footing. Video on social media shows streets in Wuhan, where the virus originated, being sprayed with disinfectant. Here in Hong Kong, the fear of catching this virus appears to be more contagious than the virus itself. On Thursday morning, there were reports of panic buying in some local supermarkets, with shelves being cleared of rice and other staples. In Hong Kong, a luxury cruise liner, the second in Asia with infected passengers, is now a floating quarantine centre, as medical teams continue screening the 3,600 passengers and crew. The authorities are also appealing to passengers who were on a previous voyage to get in touch, fearing thousands more may have been exposed to the virus.
Out in Hong Kong harbour, a huge cruise ship the virus possibly loose on board. Several passengers have tested positive and no one is being allowed off.
Hong Kong has now at least 5 cases of people with the coronavirus who haven't been to mainland China and haven't had any apparent contact with people from mainland China. Also, 3 of them live in the same place. That is this building behind me here. And that may be the first indication of what is called community transmission. That is the virus passing from one person to another here in Hong Kong.
Experts here say they are now not optimistic that the virus can be contained and that a full pandemic may be on the way.
There is going to be a big distress that is going to come into Asia. A big disease, distress of disease is coming.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We have an update on the spread of the deadly coronavirus. Now, a short time ago, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak an international public health emergency. The organization's Director General explains why they've taken this step.
The main reason for this declaration is not because of what is happening in China, but because of what is happening in other countries. Our greatest concern is the potential for the virus to spread to countries with weaker health systems and which are ill prepared to deal with it.
We begin with that new case, the first human-to-human case of the coronavirus. The World Health Organization tonight has now declared the outbreak a global health emergency after a 10-fold jump in cases in just a week.
The new coronavirus. It's moving fast and it doesn't look good. What started in the city of Wuhan in early December has now grown into a global health emergency. And as the contagion spread beyond China, so did the fear. A virus they started calling 2019 nCoV. The N's for novel, meaning new, and CoV stands for coronavirus. And this is what it looks like. One of the problems with this virus is that it's hard to tell if you have it. It might just feel like you have a cold. One thing we know is that the virus incubates between 2 and 14 days before a person shows signs of being sick. But it's been a struggle to understand how contagious it is. China's National Health Commission said that a person without symptoms is still infectious, which is pretty scary.
The Lord took me into a hospital. There's a very big distress there. You see a lot of people swarming into the hospital. I see the lack of equipment now. There is no equipment. The doctors are running up and down, and many people flooding into the hospital. Well, he makes one of the doctors there to speak with me, and he says, "You don't have equipment."
It's a global scramble for medical supplies as the coronavirus infects tens of thousands of people and continues to spread.
The world is facing chronic shortage of personal protective equipment. I will be speaking to the pandemic supply chain network to identify the bottlenecks and find solutions and push with fairness in distribution of equipment.
Chinese factories in Hubei province have ramped up daily production of medical face masks. This factory from 120,000 to 250,000. Workers are putting in 3 shifts a day to help overcome the shortage. China and Taiwan produce most of the face masks in the world, and the outbreak has forced this company to focus on domestic orders over exports. In the hardest hit areas, masks are flying off shelves as customers wait in long lines for hours to get their hands on some. Medical professionals say the protective masks are for one-time use, which is also driving up the need for more. The demand is having a global impact. At a factory in western France, orders from pharmacies and hospitals are pouring in. They're hiring a third more staff and increasing production to 7 days a week. But they admit they may not be able to make enough right away.
Since the epidemic outbreak in China, the demand has been multiplied by 5. And we're trying to answer that demand as soon as we can. So we'll be able to answer most of the demand, but maybe not for next week. It will be scheduled over time.
The Chinese government has ordered citizens to wear face masks when they go outdoors. But experts warn the masks aren't very effective at preventing transmission of the virus. The World Health Organization says hand washing is the best way to protect yourself.
I think to stop transmission of this virus, it's very important that sick people wear masks. That's for clear. Then, in terms of risk, again, I've said that for people who have no symptoms, the mask will not necessarily protect them 100% because if they don't apply other measures, it's not sufficient.
The assembly lines at these factories continue to run non-stop as the coronavirus paralyzes China and spreads around the world.
Hospitals are swamped with an acute shortage of beds. Gymnasiums and sports stadiums have been turned into temporary medical centres to cope with demand. There are not plenty of face masks. Those that are on sale cost 3 times what they did before the crisis began.
But at the same time, from Wuhan, pictures the like of which we haven't seen in generations. Stadiums, gymnasiums and conference centres all being turned into fever centres. So desperate is the shortage of beds for the sick.
CNN Breaking News.
Hello, I'm Ana Cabrera in New York. You are live in the CNN newsroom, and we are following breaking news this hour about the coronavirus. An 8th person in the U.S. confirmed to have the infection today, and now we're getting new information about additional precautions being taken by the Pentagon. The military preparing to quarantine American citizens who may have come in some kind of contact with the virus.
These are the images Chinese state media, CCTV, broadcast across the country. Rapid construction of not 1 but 2 hospitals, slated to open next week with capacity for 2,600 patients. But the people in Wuhan describing life-threatening shortages of medical supplies. This lawyer turned citizen journalist in Wuhan has been posting the problems he's encountered, saying it's lack of face masks, hazmat suits, gears, and the most important thing is lack of testing kits. You can't get confirmation if there's no testing kit. And the only thing you can do is to be a suspect case and wait at home. These images posted on the People's Daily Weibo account shows medical personnel in a Wuhan hospital making masks and hazmat suits out of trash bags. Similarly disturbing images shared across Chinese social media, fueling concern that the actual number of people infected is greater than the official count, that conditions for medical staff are increasingly dire.
We're talking about treating thousands of people, many of them suffering alone in hospital beds, away from their families, and probably feeling pretty scared. The health workers taking care of them are too, and they're overwhelmed.
所以我工作状态我没有跟他透露太多，因为他现在7岁生。我们医务人员24小时轮班。
Across China, medical supplies, including diagnostic kits, have been running out. So has bed space. In response, the Chinese government built 2 field hospitals in Wuhan from scratch in a matter of weeks. And one factory in Thailand put in overtime to make more surgical masks. Even though not all medical experts are convinced there's much protection in public.
The Lord has spoken about a very severe disease that is going to visit the earth. I see a severe form of skin disease. It looks more like leprosy coming to the earth. It's very, very scary because that disease is very infectious. The Lord already put me in that day. I already saw people running, grappling with that disease. Anyone touching that disease, gripping your hand, you are infected, and it grows over the bodies of the people of the earth that are infected.
West Africa, the biggest Ebola outbreak in history, already called out of control by aid groups in Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, is only getting worse. Governments reacting with drastic new measures, soldiers on the streets, disinfectant sprayed in public places, and schools closed.
The fear of Ebola in affected countries and beyond is palpable. A man in Guinea suspected of having the gruesome disease was left lying in a city street for hours. Passers-by too scared to help, medical resources stretched thin. And in Spain, an infected priest evacuated from Liberia, now in isolation at a Madrid hospital.
The World Health Organization has declared the outbreak an international public health emergency that requires an extraordinary response to stop its spread. The announcement was made at a conference in Geneva, with more than 930 people now believed to have died in the outbreak.
This is the largest, most severe, and most complex outbreak in the nearly 4-decade history of this disease.
I see a severe form of skin disease. It looks more like leprosy coming to the earth.
I see the judgment of the Lord coming to this nation.
Eu vejo o julgamento do Senhor que está vindo para essa nação.
I see so many insects biting me in these homes.
Eu vejo muitos insetos que estão a morder os homens nas casas.
And I've seen what is coming to Brazil.
E eu vi o que está vindo no Brasil.
The Lord, when I was in Rio, the Lord showed me this dream.
Quando eu estava no Rio, o Senhor me mostrou esse sonho.
He took me to the homes of the Brazilians.
Ele me levou em todas as casas dos brasileiros.
And then a lot of insects.
E havia muitos montão de insetos.
In millions and millions and millions.
Em milhões, milhões e milhões.
I see them biting me.
Eu lhes vi a me morderem.
In the homes of the Brazilians.
Nas casas dos brasileiros.
So many insects.
Muitos insetos.
I see them biting me.
Eu vejo-lhes a me morder.
Following developing health news at this hour, the usually cautious World Health Organization is now using alarming language to describe the Zika virus. Today, the WHO said the virus is, quote, spreading explosively across the Americas. It's already been found in several people in the United States, including New York and Los Angeles. Margaret Chan of the WHO telling member countries today, quote, the level of alarm is extremely high, as is the level of uncertainty. Questions abound. We need to get some answers quickly.
It's spread by a vector, which is a mosquito. So the mosquito bites you, and then you get the horrible disease that can cause microcephaly, which is a small head and a small brain in a newborn baby.
He took me to the homes of the Brazilians.
Ele me levou nas casas dos brasileiros.
And I see a lot of insects. I see a lot of billions of insects. Trilhões.
Eu vi trilhões de insectos.
A lot of insects.
Muitos insectos.
Many in the light all over, biting.
Muitos insectos até nas luzes e a morderem as pessoas.
I see a lot of insects fill your homes and biting you people.
Eu vejo muitos insectos.
I struggled very much in that dream.
Eu vejo muitos insectos que entraram em vossas casas, invadiram e a morder todos os brasileiros.
Some of them are walking in millions on the walls like this.
Alguns estão a subir nas paredes em colunas, milhões de insectos.
I see the judgment of the Lord coming to this nation.
Eu vejo o julgamento do Senhor que está vindo para essa nação.